Have you ever felt that the most dangerous people are the quiet ones? The ones who don't argue, don't explain, and yet everyone senses their power. Like a predator that doesn't growl, just watches. Like a calm sea that hides a storm beneath. True power isn't noise, it's control. It's silence that unsettles. Stay, and you'll understand why. As we step into the first chapter, picture this. You stand before a storm that was meant to break you, yet somehow you remain unmoved. Around you, the world demands a reaction. Voices rise, eyes wait. Chaos stretches its claws toward your calm. But you, still centered, aware, do not yield. That is the kind of strength few ever master. The kind that does not shout. The kind that does not need to prove. The kind that rules itself first. The greatest power you can ever hold is not the power to control others, but the quiet dominion over yourself. It's easy to imagine strength as fire, rage, dominance, speed, but real power is water. It adapts, flows, and never loses its depth. When your enemies provoke you, when they throw their insults, their traps, their noise, the instinct is to strike back, to defend your worth, to prove that you are not weak. But the moment you react emotionally, you have already surrendered the throne. They pull your strings, and you dance. You think you've answered them, but in truth, they've commanded you. Nothing unsettles an enemy more than someone they cannot provoke. They expect noise, they expect anger, they expect to own your attention. But when their words meet silence, when you stay composed, unreadable, indifferent, they lose their footing. It is as if they are fighting a shadow, and the harder they swing, the emptier their blows become. You become the mirror in which their insecurity stares back at them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." Calm is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is a weapon forged in restraint. The Stoics knew that anger is the surrender of reason, that every reaction born of emotion is a small death of wisdom. The strong man does not seek revenge. He does not shout to reclaim control. He returns to himself, holds the line within, and lets the world's noise collapse under its own weight. I once knew a man named Victor. He worked with someone whose hobby was provocation. Every meeting, every conversation, this man would find a way to needle him, sarcastic remarks, open challenges, subtle jabs. At first, Victor fell for it. He argued back, defended himself, showed his frustration. And every time he did, the other man smirked. He had found a lever. But one day, Victor realized the truth. The enemy wasn't his colleague. It was his own reaction. So he stopped feeding the fire. The next time an insult came, he met it with silence. No flinch, no defense, just calm presence. Something shifted. The provocations became clumsy, then desperate, then non-existent. The man who once sought to dominate him grew uneasy, because you cannot manipulate someone who no longer reacts. Victor had mastered the art of quiet control, and in doing so became untouchable. To reach that place, you must first recognize your triggers, know what unsettles you so you can see it coming. When anger stirs, pause, breathe. Imagine Marcus at dawn, writing his meditations before the city woke. Picture Seneca reminding himself that insult is only wind. It cannot bruise the soul unless you invite it in. That is discipline. That is self-command. Strength is not built in the easy moments. It is forged in the seconds between the wound and the response, between what happens and what you choose to do about it. Each pause becomes a declaration. You do not own me. My peace is not for sale. In a world that worships reaction, composure is rebellion. Every time you refuse to be provoked, you rise above the noise. You teach others without a word that their chaos cannot reach you. That is how a Stoic wages war, with clarity, not fury. So when the next storm comes, and it will, do not raise your voice. Raise your standard. Stay still. Stay aware. Let them burn their energy against your silence, because calm is not born in still weather. It's forged in the fire of restraint. And as you hold that silence, you'll feel something shift inside you. You'll see that control is not a chain, it's freedom. The one who commands himself commands every room he walks into. The one who stays calm becomes unshakable. And in a world built on noise, stillness will make you unstoppable. Now, let's move forward to the next realm of power, the place where calm turns into presence and silence itself begins to command respect. Moving into the second chapter, imagine a room full of noise, voices competing, laughter echoing, egos colliding. Yet when one person enters, the air shifts. Conversations soften, heads turn, not because he speaks first, but because he doesn't need to. His calm draws attention more powerfully than any display of dominance. His silence doesn't shrink him. It defines him. That is the essence of true confidence. Confidence that doesn't need to be loud, that doesn't seek approval or beg for attention. It simply is. A quiet force that commands respect the moment it appears. This kind of presence is not born from arrogance. It comes from certainty. When you know who you are and what you stand for, you stop performing. You stop trying to convince anyone. Your posture, your movements, your gaze, each one becomes a declaration that you are grounded within yourself. The Stoics understood this truth deeply. They believed that the man who governs his own mind naturally governs his surroundings. Lao Tzu once wrote, "Silence is a source of great strength," and the Stoics would have agreed, because silence is not emptiness. It is containment. It is the mark of someone who no longer chases the approval of the crowd. When you can walk into a room and hold your space without a single word, you are no longer waiting to be validated. You have already validated yourself. I once knew a man named Marcus. He wasn't the loudest in the room. He didn't demand attention. He rarely spoke unless it was necessary. Yet somehow, wherever he went, people listened. His posture was upright but relaxed, his eyes steady but kind, his gestures deliberate. When he entered a conversation, the energy around him changed. People naturally quieted, not because he demanded silence, but because his presence invited it. He didn't need to raise his voice. His calm was louder than sound. His composure drew respect before a single word was spoken. And here's what I realized from watching him. Confidence is not about expanding outward. It's about anchoring inward. Most people try to fill the room with noise, gestures, explanations, trying to prove their worth. But the one who has already accepted his worth doesn't compete for space. He becomes the space. He doesn't walk to be noticed. He walks to move with purpose. He doesn't talk to impress. He talks to connect. There is a power in that quiet self-assurance that borders on the sacred. To cultivate such presence, start with the body. The Stoics saw posture as an outward reflection of the soul. Stand tall, shoulders back, head high, not as an act of pride, but of alignment. A reminder to carry yourself with dignity no matter where you are. Then move with intention. Don't rush. Don't fidget. Every movement should have meaning. When you pour awareness into your gestures, you communicate steadiness before you even speak. And finally, embrace silence. The insecure man fears silence because it reveals him. The wise man welcomes it because it strengthens him. Seneca once said, "A well-ordered mind is a fortress." That's what quiet confidence truly is, a fortress. Not built of walls and stone, but of calm and certainty. When you carry that inner order, the world can feel your presence even before you arrive. You won't need to announce yourself. People will simply sense that you cannot be shaken, so walk into every room with quiet authority. Don't rush to fill the silence. Become the silence that fills the room. Let your calm be your language, your posture, your proof, your stillness, your statement. Because in a world that mistakes volume for value, the man who can remain steady without shouting becomes unforgettable. And as we continue forward, let's explore what comes next when your silence turns into motion and your motion begins to speak louder than any words ever could. Advancing to the third chapter, picture a world drowning in noise, every corner filled with people announcing what they will do, who they will become, how great their future will be. Endless words, empty promises, the air heavy with declarations, but light on proof. And yet, somewhere in that chaos, there is a man who says nothing. He simply works, quietly, consistently, and while others perform, he builds. While they speak, he transforms. That is real power, the kind that doesn't advertise itself, the kind that doesn't need applause to feel alive. The Stoics understood this long before we did. They believed that virtue, discipline, and strength were never to be discussed, only lived. Epictetus said it best: "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it," meaning don't talk about your path, walk it. Let your steps be the only announcement anyone ever hears. You see, the strong man does not waste his breath proving his worth. He understands that words are fragile. They can be twisted, doubted, or forgotten. But actions carve themselves into stone. They outlast every opinion. They silence every critic. When your results speak for you, you no longer need to explain who you are. The evidence of your life will say it louder than your tongue ever could. I once knew a man named Adrian, brilliant in thought, ambitious in dreams. He was always talking about the empire he would build, the success waiting for him just over the horizon. People admired his words at first. They sounded sharp, visionary, alive. But months passed and nothing changed. No results, no discipline, just repetition of promises. Gradually, admiration turned to polite indifference. His words became air. Then one day, something shifted. He grew silent. He stopped announcing, stopped explaining, stopped waiting for validation. Instead, he began working, quietly, methodically. Each day, he chipped away at his goals. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, people began to notice, not because he told them to, but because transformation has a gravity of its own. The same people who once dismissed him now spoke his name with respect. His success was no longer a theory, it was reality. His silence had become his proof. There's a lesson in that story, a lesson carved into the heart of Stoicism. The wise do not compete in the marketplace of noise. They build their temple in silence. Because when you focus on action, explanation becomes irrelevant. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Your consistency does it for you. Your discipline speaks louder than any argument. Your persistence becomes your reputation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The same is true for strength. Waste no time convincing the world you're capable. Show it, deliver, execute. Let your calm persistence echo louder than the loudest voice in the room. To master this, you must embrace three truths. First, consistency is the foundation. Even the smallest effort, repeated with intention, grows into unshakable momentum. Second, excellence is your standard. Do not settle for mediocrity. Sharpen your craft until precision becomes your signature. And third, resilience. Challenges will come. People will doubt you, but their disbelief is irrelevant. The Stoic builds through resistance, not around it. Each obstacle becomes proof of his endurance. In the end, your enemies may argue with your words, but they cannot argue with your results. Results end debates. Results command silence. Results make even the proudest skeptic listen. So stop explaining. Stop announcing. Stop trying to be understood before you have acted. Let your discipline speak in the language of progress. Let your work become your introduction. Let your transformation be the story others tell. Because when your actions roar, words are no longer needed. The world will see, and even your enemies will understand, silently, that you were never to be underestimated. And from here, we move into something even more profound. How to remain untouchable when the world tries to provoke you, and how calm becomes the weapon that no opponent can defeat. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine someone throwing a stone into a calm lake. The ripples spread wide, disturbing the surface, but only for a moment. Soon, the water returns to stillness, as if nothing ever happened. That is the nature of a disciplined mind, a mind that refuses to react to every stone thrown at it. And yet, most people spend their lives chasing those ripples, letting every insult, every word, every opinion disturb their peace. They think they're defending their honor, but in truth, they're handing it away. Nothing exposes weakness faster than an emotional reaction to an insult. When someone attacks you with words, your instinct is to respond, to defend, to explain, to strike back. You want to prove them wrong, to protect your dignity. But here's the quiet truth the Stoics lived by. The moment you react, you surrender control. You've just confirmed that they could reach you, and once they know that, they'll do it again. They'll press the same buttons. They'll find new ones, because your anger is a map to your weaknesses. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Those words hold the key to inner power. The insult itself is nothing but air, a vibration of sound, gone in seconds. It has no weight until you pick it up, give it meaning, and make it part of you. The wise man doesn't deny that insults exist. He simply refuses to carry them. I once knew a woman named Celeste. She worked in an environment where subtle cruelty wore a polite face. A colleague of hers, jealous, clever, and small-minded, made it a daily mission to provoke her. A sarcastic comment here, a disguised insult there. At first, Celeste did what most would do. She defended herself, argued back, tried to prove she wasn't what they said she was. But every time she reacted, the attacks grew sharper. Her reaction became the entertainment. Until one day, something changed. She stopped playing. The next time an insult came her way, she didn't flinch. She didn't look offended, didn't rush to explain. She simply carried on as if nothing had been said. And for the first time, her tormentor looked confused. The next week, another jab. Again, silence. Again, composure. Slowly, the provocations lost their flavor. Without reaction, they starved. The insults died of neglect. What Celeste discovered wasn't apathy, it was mastery. She realized that the real battlefield wasn't the conversation, but her own emotions. Once she ruled those, no one could touch her. That's what indifference truly means in Stoicism, not coldness, not detachment from life, but clarity. a calm refusal to let others dictate the rhythm of your soul. When you remain unmoved, you take back what they wanted most: your attention, your peace, your control. The Stoics compared anger to a disease of the mind, a temporary madness that blinds reason. Seneca warned, anger, if not restrained, is often more harmful to us than the injury that provokes it. And he was right. Every emotional outburst is a small surrender, a moment where we forget who commands the inner citadel. So when words are thrown at you, remember this: an insult is powerless unless you breathe life into it. If you react, you make it real. If you stay calm, it disappears into the air it came from. The strongest man is not the one who strikes hardest. It's the one who doesn't flinch at all. How do you reach that level of composure? Begin with awareness. When you feel the sting of an insult, pause, breathe. Remind yourself that your response is your choice. No one can take that from you. Then, practice emotional discipline. Speak only when it serves purpose, not pride. And finally, cultivate indifference. Not every comment deserves a reaction. In fact, silence is often the sharpest response of all. Let them mock, let them whisper, let them try to shake you. It doesn't matter. Their words only matter if you decide they do. Stay still, stay unshaken, and you'll notice something profound. The moment you stop reacting, they lose their power and you reclaim yours. From here, we move deeper into the art of control, not over emotion, but over perception. The question is no longer how to silence others, but how to remain unreadable to them. At this stage, imagine standing in a crowd where everyone is speaking too loudly, revealing too much, hoping their words will buy them trust. They talk about what they plan to do, who they dislike, what they fear. But as they reveal themselves, they give away more than they realize. The more they speak, the easier they become to read, the easier they are to control. The world is full of people who hand over their power through their own openness and never even notice it happening. Power is not just in what you do, it's in what you allow others to know. The moment people can predict you, your emotions, your weaknesses, your desires, they gain leverage. They know which strings to pull, which words to use, which illusion of praise can lead you exactly where they want. The Stoics understood this long ago. Control of the self begins with control of exposure. You must know when to reveal and when to remain silent. Epictetus taught that freedom lies in mastery of perception, your own and others. To the wise, transparency is not a virtue if it exposes the soul to manipulation. The Stoic does not lie, but neither does he scatter pieces of himself carelessly. He reveals what is needed and withholds what is sacred, not to deceive, but to protect the fortress of his mind from intrusion. I once knew a man named Daman, charismatic, intelligent, generous with his words. He believed that being open meant being genuine, that sharing his struggles and ambitions would make others trust him. He would talk freely about his doubts, his frustrations, even his goals. At first, people seemed to admire him, but slowly, that openness became his weakness. Each confession armed those around him with information they could use. When he mentioned feeling overwhelmed, his superiors piled on more pressure. When he admitted a mistake, his peers whispered it behind closed doors. His transparency, meant to build bridges, had built traps instead. One day, he decided to change. He began speaking less. He listened more. When people asked about his plans, he smiled and gave nothing away. When challenges came, he didn't complain. He adjusted. Slowly, something shifted. The same people who once used his words against him began treating him with caution, even respect. They couldn't predict him anymore. He had become unreadable. And in that silence, he found peace. He learned that sometimes the greatest statement you can make is to say nothing at all. Marcus Aurelius once reflected, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Guarding your inner world means choosing who gets to see those colors. Not everyone deserves access to your fears, your wounds, your dreams. Some will honor them, others will weaponize them, and you must know the difference. So how do you protect your power? First, be mindful of what you share. Words once spoken cannot be retrieved. Not everyone who listens deserves the truth. Second, embrace mystery. The unpredictable cannot be controlled. The unreadable cannot be manipulated. And third, use your strength with strategy. Reveal power when necessary. Appear ordinary when it serves you. The Stoic doesn't reveal his hand. He lets the world wonder what he might do next. When you hold your silence, others project their assumptions onto it. Let them. Their curiosity becomes your shield. Their confusion becomes your advantage. True control is not about deception, it's about discretion. It's about understanding that your peace, your plans, your inner life are sacred ground, and not everyone should be allowed to walk there. Remember this. The less others know about you, the more they must respect what they cannot define. Protect your inner citadel. Keep your thoughts guarded and your plans quiet. Let your composure be a riddle no one can solve. Because when you master the art of being unreadable, you become impossible to manipulate and untouchable in every sense of the word. From here, we move to the next layer of mastery, the art of silent execution, where your power no longer needs display because your results will do the speaking for you. From here, picture a crowded marketplace where everyone is shouting, each voice fights to be heard, each person desperate to be seen. Promises fly through the air like dust, plans, dreams, declarations. But amid the noise, one figure walks silently through the crowd. No announcements, no explanations, just quiet focus. And somehow that silence commands more power than all the noise combined. The loudest people are rarely the most powerful. Those who constantly announce their next move, who broadcast every ambition, are the easiest to stop. Because once the world knows your path, it also knows where to block you. True strength doesn't crave attention, it thrives in restraint. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that the man who guards his plans guards his peace. The one who reveals everything opens the door to interference, envy, and doubt. There is something sacred about moving in silence. It's not secrecy, it's strategy. It's the discipline of the mind that says, I don't need to prove what I'm building. I'll let the results speak for me. Marcus Aurelius reminded, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The wise don't justify their dreams. They act, they execute. And when success arrives, they stand quietly, knowing that their work has already said everything that needed to be said. Let me tell you a story. I once knew a woman named Naomi. She was talented, ambitious, and full of ideas. Whenever she began something new, she couldn't wait to share it with friends, colleagues, anyone who would listen. It felt exciting, almost empowering to speak her dreams aloud. But slowly, she began to notice something. The more she talked, the harder her path became. People questioned her choices. Some offered advice that only planted doubt. Others disguised their discouragement as concern. And worst of all, she began to lose her own conviction under the weight of their voices. Then one day, Naomi made a quiet decision. She stopped announcing her plans. No more updates, no more validation seeking. She poured her energy where it mattered, into the work itself. For months, she said nothing, just moved steadily forward while the world stayed unaware. When she finally succeeded, there was nothing anyone could say, no argument to make, because her results were undeniable. Her silence had been her armor, her execution the only proof she needed. That is the art of Stoic action, to let your progress unfold without the need for applause. The moment you announce your plan, you invite the world into it. And with that invitation comes resistance. People will doubt you, interrupt you, distract you, and sometimes even sabotage you. But when you move quietly, no one can predict your next step. You eliminate opposition before it ever begins. You become, as Marcus Aurelius described, a rock against which the waves break and still stand firm. So how do you cultivate this kind of silent strength? First, keep your plans to yourself. Let your ambition burn privately, where no one can extinguish it. Second, stay focused. Talking about your goals tricks the mind into feeling progress. It gives you satisfaction without achievement. Don't speak of doing, do. And third, let your results be your voice. A man who delivers does not need to convince. A woman who acts does not need to explain. The world recognizes quiet excellence long after the noise fades. Your silence is your shield. Your consistency is your weapon. And your results, those are your legacy. The Stoic does not need recognition to move. He acts from duty, not from applause. The less he says, the more gravity his presence holds. So work in shadows. Build your foundation where no one is watching. Then, when the moment comes, emerge not with words, but with proof. Let your success announce itself. Let your silence make the loudest sound of all. And as we step into the final chapter, we arrive at the ultimate expression of Stoic power, not just silence or strategy, but authenticity. The courage to be entirely yourself, without apology, in a world desperate to make you someone else. Entering the final chapter, imagine standing in a room where everyone is wearing masks, each smile rehearsed, each opinion adjusted to fit the crowd. You can feel the weight of performance in the air, people trying to blend in, to please, to be accepted. And then, someone walks in who simply doesn't play the game. No pretense, no disguise. They speak with calm conviction. They don't apologize for their truth. The room shifts. That quiet defiance, rooted not in arrogance but authenticity, commands more respect than all the noise combined. There is nothing more powerful than a person who refuses to apologize for who they are. The world teaches conformity. It rewards imitation. It punishes difference. From childhood we're told to fit in, to smooth our edges, to think less, question less, feel less, because comfort prefers sameness. But the Stoics understood the tragedy of such surrender. They believed that every man and woman was born with a logos, a divine reason, a unique order within the soul. To betray that nature for approval is to live as a shadow of yourself. Most people are desperate to be liked. They shrink to fit rooms too small for their spirit. They suppress their opinions, laugh at jokes they find dull, downplay their strengths to keep others comfortable. They live on the leash of public approval and call it peace. But here's the truth. The moment you stop chasing validation, you become untouchable. When you no longer need to be liked, you become free, and nothing unsettles people more than someone who doesn't seek their approval. Epictetus wrote, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." The Stoic understood that freedom doesn't come from acceptance, it comes from independence of opinion. The crowd may misunderstand you, mock you, even reject you. Let them. Their noise cannot reach the man who stands firmly in his nature. I once knew a man named Elias. For years he tried to be everything others wanted him to be. In one circle he was quiet and agreeable. In another, loud and confident. He laughed when he didn't feel joy. He agreed when he didn't believe. On the surface, people liked him. But beneath that surface, he felt empty. He had bent himself so many times that he no longer knew his true shape. Until one day, the mask cracked. He stopped pretending. He began to speak honestly, even when it made others uncomfortable. He stopped diluting his ideas just to fit in. And something remarkable happened. The same people who once dismissed him began to respect him, not because he had changed into someone new, but because for the first time he was whole. Some couldn't handle his authenticity and drifted away. Others, the right ones, drew closer. Either way, he won. Because he no longer needed to perform for anyone, he found peace in self-respect, and from that moment, no one's opinion could touch him. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Craving approval is poverty of the soul. But when you begin to live by your own standards, you discover a wealth that cannot be taken: dignity, confidence, freedom. So how do you live unapologetically? First, stop seeking validation. You don't need anyone's permission to exist as yourself. The moment you stop begging for approval, you claim your power. Second, embrace your uniqueness. The world may not understand it, but that's exactly why it needs it. Your difference is not a flaw, it's your signature. And finally, live by your own code. Not the rules of the fearful or the bitter, but the principles of your inner reason, your logos. When you live authentically, you cannot be manipulated. The world fears what it cannot control. And authenticity, once claimed, becomes a kind of armor. You stop being swayed by opinions because you've anchored yourself in truth. Be unapologetically yourself. Stand firm in who you are. Let your words, your silence, and your actions reflect your nature, not their expectations. Some will admire you, others will leave. Either way, you win, because the one who stands alone in truth stands stronger than 1,000 who live in imitation. And this is where the journey ends and begins again, because the end of imitation is the beginning of truth. The Stoic path isn't about becoming someone else, it's about returning to yourself, quiet, steady, unmoved, a soul that no longer needs approval to be at peace. True power begins the moment you stop asking for approval and start standing in your own truth. When you no longer shrink to fit into small places, you rise above them. You become untouchable, not through defiance, but through quiet certainty. Strength is not about control. It is about knowing who you are and walking with peace in a world that wants you to shout. If this message spoke to you, write "Power Silent" in the comments to anchor it within. And if you wish to keep deepening this calm strength, subscribe to walk this path with intention. Remember, the strongest presence is the one that stays still when the world trembles. Stay calm, stay aware, and be ready for what comes next.